So, the Steam Next Festival, formerly known as the Steam Summer Games Fest, I believe, has rolled around once again. I confess I wasn't really paying attention to it, so its arrival kind of caught me completely by surprise. However, I was pleasantly surprised to see Industria show up like driftwood on an island shore, as one of the featured limited-time game demos. Since this is only a demo, not the full game, I'm not going to be doing that much of a deep dive today, per se. But rather, I'm just going to give you a basic synopsis of the game along with my overall first impressions based on the demo that I played. Industria is a self-described story-driven, atmospheric first-person shooter game, set in an alternate history version of Berlin, Germany during the fall of the Berlin Wall back in 1989. The developers have openly stated that they did take influence from games like Half-Life 1 and 2 during the development process, and it's not really all that hard to spot the influence here. The game does feel very Half-Life-y, except for perhaps it is rather less reliant on the platforming puzzles that Half-Life relied almost exclusively on as a gimmick, although Industria seems to mostly veer to the opposite extreme. Industria, at least from what the demo has showcased so far, seems to be very keen on almost excessive handholding. Everything felt incredibly linear, while conversely lacking many of the basic expected features of a linear story-driven single-player game. For one, there was almost no story whatsoever. In the entire demo, there was maybe one single cutscene, and it lasted all of 20 seconds, and effectively only served as the transition point between the two separate levels showcased in the demo. I'll be very curious to see how the developers intend to fulfill their rather ambitious promise of a roughly 4-hour-long campaign, considering both of these levels can be easily played through, even at a fairly casual pace, in less than 20 minutes. I myself took maybe 15 minutes, and I'm by no means a speedrunner, so unless they plan to include between 25 and 30 levels into the final game, I just don't see how they plan to live up to that promised average playthrough length. In regards to both the short playthrough length and the lack of cutscenes and other features, this is especially surprising to me as the previous demo, released back in 2020, was both longer, had multiple fully animated cutscenes, and showed off a wider degree of the game's most prominent features, including not only combat but also parkour puzzles and other content not seen here. Visually, I would say the game at this point in time looks good, although not fantastic. I encountered a certain degree of pop-in as well as other technical shortcomings. The weapon animations still felt a little bit stiff and clunky, but I understand full well that this is still a late alpha or early beta demo, so I'm very hopeful these minor issues will get addressed between now and the game's full release later this year. I really appreciated the game's art style, and that has been one of the selling points to me throughout my entire time watching this game's development process on Twitter. Although, again, I do think that due to the unfinished state of the game at present, we haven't really seen it in its most ideal final quality yet. The weapon models and animations appear fairly solid, but their AI definitely feels like it's a bit on the lackluster side. The AI deals a lot of damage, but they're not the greatest at flanking the player or working together in unison. If you're expecting even somewhat sophisticated AI like that seen in games like Generation Zero, you're going to be severely let down here. But as far as dummy targets go, they're visually good looking enough for my liking. Personally, if I had the ability to go in and rework them myself, I would decrease the base damage output for their weapons, but in turn make them more coordinated and more likely to try to flank the player from opposite angles as opposed to just running in one by one around the corner and dying in single file. The game appears to incorporate some survival mechanics, such as seemingly crafting ingredients, manual save points appearing in the form of typewriters, etc. I know, not exactly original, but likewise, you could argue that this game itself isn't super original anyway, so at least they're being tonally consistent. In order to heal, you'll need to find medicine in the levels themselves. I'm not sure if Industria does intend to create a crafting system, but it seems like that's the direction they're going, the more survival game direction. I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being the case. You're not able to heal over time, this isn't Call of Duty. If you take too much damage, the implication seems to be that you'll die and be forced to start over again from your last saved checkpoint, presumably with whatever health you had at the time that you saved. I say implied because I never actually died during my brief time playing the demo, so I can't say for certain. One thing I was pleasantly surprised by, and other more diehard PC Master Race enthusiasts probably will be far more appreciative of than me, was the rather extensive options menu, which has all the usual notable inclusions, such as enabling or disabling VSync and full screen, as well as low, medium, high, and ultra settings for the shadow quality, texture quality, effects quality, etc. But also a ton of sliders for stuff like sound effects volume, music volume, and dialogue volume, as well as a master volume slider. One of my biggest pet peeves is when developers only include one master volume slider. Sometimes I want to be able to turn down or mute one aspect of the sound without affecting the others, like for example, disabling music while keeping sound effects and other stuff enabled. And to see that degree of customization in a demo is very impressive. Also, for those of you that don't really like having crosshairs on your screen, the options menu will allow you to enable or disable that at will. By default, it is enabled. Additionally, you can adjust no-scope weapon aiming sensitivity separately from scoped weapon aiming sensitivity, so the two aren't intrinsically bound together, which likewise is pretty nice. And for subtitles, not only can you turn them on or off, but you can adjust the size of the font, as well as how quickly or slowly they disappear from your screen. It's really odd to see so much effort dedicated to a demo's options menu, while the game itself feels like it's still needing quite a bit of quality of life improvements. I'm not saying I'd want a worse options menu, but I just wish they'd redouble their efforts on the game rather than the main menu that precedes it. Overall, I wasn't exactly as blown away as I thought I'd be, but Industria does show enough potential that I do plan to continue keeping an eye on its development, as I already have been doing for the past year or so. The Industria demo, as of when this video goes live, is no longer available to play, but the full game is expected to release Q3 2021 this fall. So for those of you interested in checking it out for yourselves, you can do that. You can follow this game and wishlist it on Steam now by just, searching Industria. And the developer also does actively post regular screenshots and development updates on Twitter at @JoinIndustria. So if you're interested in finding out more about the game, those are both good places to start. On that note though, that's where I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. As usual, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please do be sure to give this video a like, share it around, and definitely let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm always up for some healthy and vigorous debate in my comment section. We don't all have to agree, but as long as we can keep things fairly civil, I'm more than happy. If you want to support the work I do on this channel, subscribing and clicking the bell to opt into getting all notifications would really help. YouTube doesn't make it easy for people to find my videos. It only takes 1, maybe 2 button clicks to subscribe and enable notifications. It's a little effort that can go a long way, plus it'll make you one of the first people to know when a new video of mine goes live. My goal is to cross over 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2021, and if I do meet that number, I plan to donate $100 to the Team Trees nonprofit initiative, a group dedicated to reducing our carbon footprint and actively attempting to limit the extent of global warming by repopulating millions of trees in deforested areas. I like the idea of, as I grow and hit certain milestones, I give back to charity and the rest of the world. If you want to join me in donating to the cause, great, but all I ask is that you subscribe and help inch me closer to fulfilling my pledge. Either way, thanks for joining me as always. This is WarriorDan signing out. Stay awesome everybody, stay safe, and peace out.